and we are presented by BetRivers. We're talking today's slate. It's a big one. It's hefty. There's some good games. Maybe not quite as many as Saturday, but we are presented solid slate for by BetRivers. Got a lot to get to. We're talking today's slate. We do, it's a big one. It's hefty. There's some good games. I'm going to start with you, Kai. Not quite as many as Saturday, but we are presented
Jim,
by
takeaways.
BetRivers.
Let me see real
talking
quick
today's
here.
slate.
I had a nice relaxing Monday. I played basketball in a basketball league with my buddy Matt. Didn't win. We're over the hill. Texas. Way to hang on, Texas. Way to get your key Q1 win there against Kansas. I thought they were going to blow it. Thought Kansas had it. But the Beards hang on. Fantastic job by them, Matt. Good for the sport.
It helps to bank in threes. Banking in threes is good.
Trey Mitchell banked in three from top of the key. He tried to do it a couple times. Yeah, good for him. Matthew.
Yeah, so my Texas take is team rubs me the wrong way, Jim. Like the resume is pretty strong. They've avoided a few landmines, but every time I watch, I'm just like, I don't know what they're doing. I don't think they know what they're doing. Their offensive identity is still a work in progress, and they have like odd defensive lapses that don't feel very Chris Beard-esque. I think we made excuses for it in December. The result was great last night, but let's be honest, if Trey Mitchell isn't banking that garbage ass three, like they probably don't win that game. And we're talking about Texas as like the sky is falling. It's a good team. It's a well-coached team for the most part. It just hasn't looked like as well a coached team as I would have expected by this part in February, Jim, for the talent that they have and the experience that they have.
I think the offense critiques are fair. I don't have really concerns over the defense. I feel like their defense has been pretty darn good. They had a couple lapses last night, but that's Kansas. I mean, you're playing a top 5 team in the country. It's hard to be perfect. I mean, other than that game and the Texas Tech insane, unique environment, they've been suffocating defensively over the past couple of weeks. So I'm not that concerned on that end, but yeah, I mean, the pecking order and figuring out how they're going to score is important. Matt, we're not getting through takeaways without talking about your Devils. Dropping one at home to a non-tournament team. Probably should have won that game multiple times last night, giving up that jump ball late, just completely losing the inbounder for Beekman's game winner. And then the steal and one that Beekman got with like 90 seconds left, just a sleepy moment from Jeremy Roach. What do you have to say about your Blue Devils off that loss?
It was kind of a predictable letdown spot. I think Duke's going to be a pretty easy team to pick out when they're going to have quote unquote lulls, but you don't need to lose when you're a 13-point favorite with that kind of talent. It's not good, right? That's not. It's one thing to get in a close barn burner and escape, but to outright lose, especially when you had I think they were up 4 with 2 to play. That's a game you got to close. It's just Coach K. I mean, I hope he enjoys his farewell tour. I think we all. I know Kai and Jim are both ecstatic to.
Love it. Yeah, love it.
I know you guys are both crying every night that he's going to be gone, but I just hasn't really picked up the clipboard this year and used it. Let's just be honest about it. There is zero. Minimal schematic adjustments. I know he did like a zone back to man switch, but just in general, there was no like scouting. There's no different approach to go against a pack line defense. And I thought it was like, we're just going to see what we do and play how we do. And it was a very stubborn approach, I thought, in general, Jim.
Here's my concern, Matt. Maybe that's K, but that's like, you can say about basically every K assistant
that's what I'm worried about. Like, is Shire going to be the same thing? Just like, hey, we have better talent. Let's see if our talent's better than your talent.
That's what I'm worried that it's not going to be an immediate change. But all right,
a bad omen.
Let's focus on tonight. Let's focus on tonight. Talking best bets. Auburn headed to Arkansas. Man, Auburn's actually been mortal on the road. Kai, they're 3-4 against the spread compared to their incredible home performances. Meanwhile, Arkansas has covered, I think, 6 of 7, something like that. They've been awesome lately since they shuffled their lineup, playing Chris Likes basically none. Does that mean Arkansas gets this huge Q1 win they need? Does Auburn finally drop a conference game? How do you see this one?
Yeah, major spot here for Arkansas. I think they're going to be up for it. They've won 8 straight, like you said, Jim. 7-3 in the SEC after that 0-3 start. They're starting to kind of get back to the level many expect them to be in the preseason. And you mentioned the Auburn road record. They've been bad on the road. Mizzou led most of the way in their game. They almost lost to Georgia. It hasn't been a great team, Matthew, on the road, even though I still think this is a surefire national title contender. I'm not worried about them in the long run, but here I am a little bit worried about them against Arkansas. I kind of lean the Hogs' way, and I love the over. Both games last year went 75 possessions, scored a lot of points. That's probably my strongest lean in this game, but a slight one to Arkansas as well.
Theme for me on today's show, I liked a lot of short road favorites today. bordering on spinny plays.
I was gonna say, where's your?
I know. Hat? Where is it? Need it right now. Very fitting if I had it. But yeah, I like Auburn here. I think they'll be locked and motivated after the Georgia scare. I know it's kind of a tricky schedule spot. There's a lot of these spots where like there's a quick turnaround to an early week big game after a weekend big game. Makes me a little bit nervous. Jim, the matchup though that I'm excited about is Jalen Williams versus Walker Kessler. Jalen Williams has really been like the catalyst to Arkansas's turnaround. They featured him a lot more on offense. He's been a consistent double threat scoring. I don't think I have the exact numbers, but like 15-10 a game. He's been key. I think giving them some balance, not overly relying on those guards who can be feast or famine. He's kind of that rock, and that's been a big buoy for why Arkansas has played a lot better. I believe in the new Arkansas. I'm a believer, Kai. I think it's too short, especially against a motivated Auburn, presumably.
Yeah, I do think like there's something to that. Auburn is pretty young, and they probably are overlooking the bad teams they're playing on the road. Your Georgias, your Missouris, and this one they probably see as more a fitting opponent. Like, look how they got up at Alabama. That I think that's probably a better comp for this game than Georgia or Mizzou. And I think another key is Zep Jasper. He needs to be on the floor. Like he missed last game with an illness. He's their best backcourt defender. He's a pest. He never turns the ball over. And he's like the adult in the room. Matt, you talk about that sometimes, like having a senior in the backcourt when it's all sophomores that are a little erratic. They're very confident, but they're erratic. So I think getting Jasper back or potentially getting him back would be huge. I'm split and torn. I see both sides with the home angle for Arkansas, but also Auburn is just, they can be a juggernaut when they want to be. So I have no bet on this one, guys, unfortunately. All right, let's go to the other really big headliner. I'd say these top two games are just a slight tier above the rest of them today. We've got Illinois at Purdue, arguably for the Big Ten title. I know Michigan State is definitely in that conversation as well. There's some other teams lurking around there, Michigan or Wisconsin for one, but these two look to be the top dogs. Matt, let me go to you first here. Purdue did win in double overtime in the first game. We were burned by being on the under in that one. So I'm not taking the under again here. Are you brave enough to do so?
No, I'm not. Still scarred from that annoying overtime in a game that should have sailed under. Anyway, gripes aside, I kind of like Illinois here. And just look at the last two Purdue home games. Yes, Mackey is awesome. Yes, Purdue is awesome when at home. They were laying a pretty juicy spread against Ohio State and against Michigan, and they did not cover either. I think the key theme that we also saw transpire before a few times throughout the season, just can't really close out games, put teams away. They allow, multiple counter punches late.
Iowa did this to them.
Yep. Iowa did this to them. I mean, even that Northwestern game, like Boo Buie started getting hot late and they got a little, not dicey, but like they didn't just quite put a team away, put the foot on the throat and hold it there, Kai. And so I think against Illinois catching 6, I think the Illini are going to be right in this, especially given they lost at home. I know Mackey, Mackey's a dangerous spot, but I think Illinois competes here.
Matt, I'm with Michael Rizzo in the chat. It is not Illinois. It is Illinois.
Illinois. Did I say Illinois? Illinois?
Yeah.
Kai, how do you say it? Hold on. Kai, how do you say it?
Illinois.
If I always said Illinois?
Yeah, you got a little L to it.
That's kind of
it's kind of a St. Louis, Missouri thing, Kai, right? Thing. Yeah, I think a lot of Illinois students, Jim, would actually say it like I would. Maybe I'm being truly authentic to my region.
Okay.
A lot of people say pillow instead of pillow.
It's like you call water fountain a bubbler, you psycho. Get out of here.
That's weird.
Stay on your island.
The flip-flop here. The away team wins the first game. The other away team wins the second game. This is in play for Illinois today. Yeah, Mackey's tough, but they're 6-7 against the spread at Mackey this year. Purdue is. That's strange against the spread, not straight up.
Big numbers.
Yeah, right. A lot of that is due to inflated lines for sure. Purdue's in line for a 1 seed right now. This is a huge game for them. They're not going to take this opponent lightly. And Jim, we remember in game 1, Zach Edey destroyed Kofi Coburn.
Yeah.
I mean, he destroyed him. Kofi fouled out. Edey had 20. Kofi had 10 on 3 of 9 shooting. Purdue really is one of the few teams in the country that really can match up with Kofi, and that's huge. I'm scared to back Illinois, even though it's kind of the side I lean today, because Purdue can be so dominant inside, even against Kofi.
Yeah, I'm curious, if anything, I don't know exactly when Kofi got his concussion in that first game, like if they didn't pick up on it or what, because he did foul out, but then he missed the next 2 games with a concussion, so I don't know if he was playing with it for a little bit. Curious if that helps him. But yeah, I mean, the battle in the paint is huge. Purdue dominated last time. Illinois very not used to being dominated in the paint, especially in the games that Coburn plays. I just can't trust Purdue laying the points right now because they keep letting teams get back in. The defense is a concern. I think I've had a couple of Purdue fans yell at me for saying that, but they're outside the top 100 at Ken Pom. Like you have to be able to get better stops, get more stops. And I think this could be a solid Curbelo game. He played well in the first meeting.
Yeah.
And if they go ball screen, get ED in space, that's a problem for Purdue. So I think Illinois hangs around enough. I'm not betting this one. Let's go to the other Big Ten showdown tonight. It's also a rematch, Kai, where the home team won the first game at the road team. So Michigan State won at Wisconsin in the first meeting. No Tyler Wall in that game, but Michigan State obliterated them. That was an eye-opening performance for the Spartans, showed how important the top-end talent is to that Wisconsin roster. Do you think the Badgers get the flip-flop back like we talked about?
I kind of do. Yeah, and I think you're getting value here +4. We've talked about Michigan State. I still just don't think they're that great. They're capable of playing terrible games. The loss Northwestern at home without Nance. Then they beat Wisconsin on the road. Sure. Tyler Wall, guard, has talked about multiple times how important Wall is to that team. He's their best defender. Glue guy, does everything on the floor for them. They hung with Illinois on the road. They blew out Michigan. Okay, really good efforts. But then you beat Maryland by 2 on the road, almost lose that game. You get blown out by Rutgers.
Blown out by Rutgers. What are you doing?
To me, Wisconsin's a better team. So by definition, Matt, +4 is a lot of value because I don't think Michigan State's home court is worth that many points.
Yeah, tore on the side. I was just looking at Johnny Davis's stat line the last few games. He looks mortal.
Not that
He's
good.
been pretty inefficient. I think he's 1 of 7 from 3 his last 2 at 2-point range. He's those mid-rangers that were, kind of like the Johnny Juzang 2.0 rendition this season. They're not falling. I'm not like hitting the panic button like, Johnny Davis is overrated. I'm just saying Wisconsin is highly leveraged on his shot making, playing at the level that they're priced at right now in the market. So any sort of indicator that he's maybe not the perennial front runner, that he's not being the awesome 25 a game against Houston and Purdue and all these awesome teams, you got to be a little worried. And I know that Michigan State beat them in the first match. It makes me a little bit nervous to back him here, but I would lean Sparty, Jim. I would lean Sparty.
Yeah, I'm very much of 2 minds here. I think the Wisconsin getting them back with Wall back in the lineup and that angle has some value, but Izzo has kind of owned Wisconsin in his tenure there, especially at Breslin. I think maybe last year when they played on Christmas was Wisconsin's like best performance at the Breslin Center, but that was also not a great Michigan State team. This one is better. They're off a loss. AJ Donaldson in the chat mentioned Michigan State 4-0 against a loss this year. Izzo gets their attention. I think that does matter a little bit. So I see strong angles for both sides, which means it's hard for me to bet. So I will continue to sit on the fence, boys. I've done that on 3 games already.
Oh boy.
Maybe I'll keep it rolling for the next one. Next game before we get to chat mob is Marquette at UConn. And man, Matt, we have a 3rd straight game here where the host won the first game on the road. UConn beat Marquette at Marquette. That was when they were floundering in early January, struggling. This is kind of a different Golden Eagles team at this point. They've got Daryl Morcell back. He did not play in that game. Obviously very important for on-ball defense. He, again, former Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. That's pretty key. But UConn also has some probably physicality and strength inside, an advantage there with Sonogo. Where are you leaning in this one?
I think I was actually leaning Connecticut. The Huskies just feels like a pretty good spot for them. But just because of the desperate angle and where they're at right now, but Marquette's been off for a while though too. So I don't know if you want to completely play this on a spot. The price is about right, Kai. I would say it's sitting at 6, opened at 5.5. So I think the odds makers made a pretty sharp opener. It hasn't moved a ton. Gut tells me this is like the oh shit Connecticut game where the physicality up front is just too much. And we see the version that showed up against Auburn back in November. Just a gut feeling, just a hunch, not enough to bet it. Like I said, I think the price is pretty precise here. So no action for me officially.
Yeah, Marquette's nuts, man. I don't know. They're looking like a 5 or 6 seed. They swept Villanova. That's incredible. They're 8-4 in the Big East. And UConn's dropped 2 straight. They look good. They passed the off the bus test, but look at their wins in the Big East, man. They're 6-4 in the Big East. Okay. Butler twice, Georgetown, DePaul, St. John's are 5 of those wins. The other one is at Marquette without Daryl Morcell. These wins are not very good in the Big East. UConn, I don't know what it is. They can't really close games out. They lose games they shouldn't, or rather they don't beat teams that they need to. to get up into the upper half of the stand or upper part of the standings of the Big East, get a high seed in March. Marquette's D is legit. I'm not super worried about Sonogo killing them inside, who he should, especially with Marcel back in the lineup, making their overall defense stronger. The number to me is a little high. I'd probably lean Marquette at +6 here. Spot's better for UConn off 2 losses, but why go against Marquette right now? They're rolling.
Yeah, they really are. And they're 11-4 against the spread as an underdog, 5-1 as a road underdog. They've been really good covering these numbers. They did it at Xavier when Xavier was a wagon early in the year. Now they're actually catching more of a reeling UConn team.
Yep.
The situation, I like the spot of having lost at home and getting more sellbacks. This is very similar to Wisconsin, of lost at home without very key defender, now going on the road. Marquette's getting a little bit of a bigger number. I lean towards the Golden Eagles, but this is another game I did not bet. UConn needs to start stacking wins, as Matt mentioned. It's about time.
Yeah, if they don't win this one, I think there's going to be some real tension around that program. I think there's just mounting frustration with this season so far with that team. Just a few.
Very inconsistent. Kind of across the entire roster. Okay, let's get to Chat Mob. Kai is my czar. Make sure to hit that like button, folks. Real simple. We really appreciate that. Let's get to some questions.
Let's do it. Let's start with Jess, who says West Virginia is his best bet. And gosh dang it, as I say it, I forgot I was going to put this at the end because my best bet is in this game. But here I go anyways. My best bet, guys, today is West Virginia, Iowa State under 129.5 at BetRivers. It's mainly a Taz Sherman, most likely being outplay. He's super important to West Virginia's offense. It's also a play on the pace. I think it's going to play pretty slowly. It's also play on the little to no offense either team, mainly Iowa State, has shown in conference play. So under in that game is my best bet.
Yeah, Isaiah Brockington taking step back 18-footers is a tough sustainability plan for your offense.
And just watching West Virginia shoot layups in general is never a fun watching experience.
All right, well, let's go to Pat's lock of the day. Pat's doing pretty well in the chat with his locks lately.
Nice shot, Pat.
Syracuse is -4. Matthew, on the road to Boston College. You like a side?
Yeah, gut tells me he's got the winner there. And just anecdotally the last week, trusting your gut with sort of the obvious initial what feels too high, too low plays pretty well. So trust it. Follow Pat. Right with my guy.
Syracuse is scorching. Over 50% from three straight games. So maybe you just keep riding the wave.
Jim, how about Mizzou, Vanderbilt? Ray in the chat says he likes Mizzou +8. What do you think?
Yeah, my number, I think it opened 7, and I sort of lean towards Vandy. I think they're just a lot better with Chapman in the lineup. Robbins probably still out. He had a setback. This is the kind of game Kai mentioned to you pre-show. Like, this is where Mizzou covers. No one's really paying attention to them. They're an underdog. This game is not like nationally televised. So I could see them being feisty here, especially with the number up. You get a little extra value from the opener. I'm fine with betting the Tigers. I'm not going to push against that.
Matt Domehawk, his lock in the chat is SLU, our hometown Billikens.
All right.
-8 on the road against LaSalle. Any leans?
SLU coming off the Arch Baron. Worry about slight letdown, slight dead sleepy spot. LaSalle beat George Mason, who had like 5 players. Yay, LaSalle. Woo! God, I hate that team. Hey, Yuri Collins, absolute madman recently. Just want to kind of highlight how awesome he's been. But in terms of this game, spread-wise, the line's pretty sharp.
So we got blitzed at LaSalle last year off their COVID pause. So maybe there's a little.
Yeah, badly. That's true.
I don't know.
LaSalle's been much better at home, by the way, too. We talked about that last time. So they're not as terrible in the friendly confines of Philly.
I don't give LaSalle a lot of credit, I'll be honest. Jim Tooch, as well as another person in the chat, excuse me, I forgot. FAU is hosting Old Dominion. FAU's been a wagon lately. 6.5 points to an ODU team who hasn't been too bad itself.
Yeah, I can't keep up with FAU. I'm against them today again. I think Old Dominion is not 3 or 4 points worse on a neutral, as this indicates. But again, I've been wrong against FAU like 3 straight games. So tread lightly if you agree with that. I also kind of like the under. I think both teams slow it down. FAU's been really hot. There's got to be some regression coming.
Yeah, FAU's playing. Who's the former Texas Tech transfer big? Golden, Vlad Golden, monster up front. I think like more minutes for him is better for under. Pace plays a little slower. He's a beast on both ends.
Matt, how about a question from Matthew? Colorado State, Nevada. Colorado State's -6 at the Wolfpack. Grant Sherfield, ? Warren Washington, ?
I think they're both out.
They're both out is the assumption. Yeah.
So 6 short, would you say?
No, I don't think it is. We saw Nevada compete at San Diego State without them. I'm not saying they're going to be fine without them, but we at least have evidence of them playing competently without those two dudes. And a little bit worried about Colorado State. Slight hangover after the Aztec win too.
Jim, question for you. We have two from Kay Ingraham. Number one is Rhode Island and VCU. Rhode Island +5 against VCU. Vince Williams, question mark?
Yeah, he's huge. I mean, we've seen what he's meant to their offense as a shooter and a passer. Like, he actually does a lot for them, not just scoring the wing. Definitely lean to the under if he's out. Rhode Island's offense is incompetent. It's so bad.
Yes, it is. And
decision making, free throw shooting. Hey, by the way, though, David Cox, my long lost cousin, has beaten Rhodes 3 of his last 4.
I thought you've disowned him. I thought you've disowned him as your cousin.
Not officially. Not officially. Jim, family's family, bro. You know, even if you hate your cousin, you still gotta love them. You know, same kind of how I approach it.
Matt, how about your Hoosiers, a team that did not make the outline, but they're favored by a half, -1 across the board here, facing Chicago's Big Ten team, Northwestern.
I think I've attended 2 or 3 of Indiana's losses at Northwestern. Seems like, how did we go to like 1 or 2 of those games? I don't like backing this.
I don't think Indiana lost when we went, but I'll tell you what, there's going to be like 70% of the fans in the stands will be Indiana.
Take IU. The spread's too cheap. The line's too short. Maybe I've been fading Northwestern too stubbornly. They just beat Nebraska by 40. That's an indictment on Nebraska, not a credit to Northwestern, in my opinion. Again, continues to inflate their analytic metrics. I take the Hoosiers.
Need Finney back. I razz him, but he matters.
Wow, Jim, are you a big shot Bob defender now? I love it. I mean, the guards are erratic. The guards are erratic. Yeah.
Jim, back to you for the Big West. Cal State Fullerton, -2 against Long Beach State. Both teams I think we kind of like this year. They're incredible.
Yeah, this is for first place. I think they both have one loss in the league. Yeah, I kind of like the over. I think it's a shootout. Beach feels like an over team to me. They get up and down. They're very guard heavy. Joe Hampton, I think, missed one of their last 2 games, maybe both. That's a key interior presence for them. I'm not sure how they stop Anisiki inside, but yeah, I just kind of think points. I don't have a side in this game.
Official update. Sorry, breaking on the news wire. Mike Miles is out tonight. So,
yes. Well, let's talk about that game real quick. TCU, Oklahoma State. Because he's out, Matt, do you like the Horned Frogs? I believe they're now -2.5 point favorite against Oklahoma State.
Yeah, it's dropping pretty quickly here. To be honest, if it keeps going down, maybe catch TCU -1. Jim's smiling. I think he likes that angle as well. I don't really trust this Oklahoma State team.
I don't either.
I just don't.
TCU is just kind of a zig when they're zagging type of team. Like, oh, they lost to Kansas State at home. They must suck again. It's like, nope, they're going to play their way into the tournament.
And Bow's been good on the ball. Yeah, take the Horned Frogs. Wait for it to drop, then take the Horned Frogs.
Jim McKenzie says St. John's Villanova under. Yes. Also, the spread's -4 in favor of Villanova.
I'm hard agreeing the under. I bet the under in the first meeting, and it went way under. Obviously, controlling tempo is tough if you don't have Moore or Gillespie, but Posh is limited too. So the pressure angle on the other end is kind of tough. Like every key guard in this game has an ankle injury. It's obnoxious, but I think that leads towards the under.
All right, last one before we go back to the rundown here with the rest of the questions at the end of the show. Matthew, Creighton is hosting Butler. Creighton is -7.5.
Yeah, Butler beat the crap out of him in Hinkle. I think Creighton returns the favor here back in Omaha. It's kind of a big spread, and I think Butler's been more competitive, although they annoyingly fumbled down the stretch there against St. John's. So too high for me to take, but that's where my gut leans toward the home Jays.
Yep.
Yeah, kind of that way too. All right, Jim, back to the rundown.
Back to the rundown. The darling of the college basketball world, fellas. The Wyoming Cowboys had a monster week last week, 2 big home wins, and then capped it with a win at Fresno on Sunday. Matt, the schedule does not get any easier. Now they're hosting Utah State. Only like 1.5 in the line here. I think a lot of people would have guessed that these teams are equal. You give 3.5 for home, boom, Wyoming 3.5, 4, especially with Brock Miller still not back for Utah State. Why is this line what it is? And do you think there's value on either side?
It seems like a bet against the spot and schedule for Wyoming, as you mentioned, Jim.
How many good games in a row can you play?
Right. You can't possibly play as many good games in a row. And the fact that they played Monday, Thursday, Sunday, now playing Tuesday. And they start a 2-game road stand next week. Linder talked about how he's been trying to keep his guys rested. It's clearly wearing on the team. He's been trying to play more bench guys. He's challenged some of his role players to step up because he knows he needs their legs. So there is something there. I just don't know if it's worth this much. It's been bet down to -1. Kai opened -3 Wyoming. I'm really tempted to come in against the early market and bet on our pokes. Can we call them our pokes? Can we claim ownership, or is that too?
No, that's fine.
Too pompous. Okay.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised the spread too. So Utah State actually ranks one spot ahead of Wyoming and KenPom, which is maybe a little surprising to many out there. It's obviously a huge game for both teams. Utah State's on the wrong side of the bubble, but they're surging. 5 straight wins, 6-5 in Mountain West after 1-5 start. Wyoming right now could be as high as a 6 or a 7 seed, and they're 8-1. And that stretch you mentioned, Jim, Colorado State, Boise, Fresno, last 3 games they've won. That's incredible. Those 3 teams are legit, and Wyoming themselves are legit. Hunter Maldonado, is there a matchup for him in the Utah State backcourt? I don't think so. Post ups all day, and even Graham Ike, I think, has an advantage here too.
I think you guard Maldonado with Bean. Is
yeah.
that crazy?
Like,
I think you put Bean on him.
Yeah,
I think you do too. But this is also one of those games with the flip flop scenario. Wyoming beat Utah State at Utah State. Maybe Utah State returns the favor here. I don't know. I'm very wishy-washy on this game, Jim.
Yeah, I love Wyoming, but my gut is kind of that Utah State wins. Although Wyoming has not lost at home this year. They've been terrific. They've got a great crowd. They got the elevation, but that's not going to bother Utah State. They play at elevation as well. So, yeah, just a kind of a sneaky feeling that Utah State gets the win and kind of breaks up the party that everyone's having for Wyoming right now.
Hey, 2 quick comments from the chat I want to point out. As Chad K mentions, yeah, the Mountain West COVID schedule is pretty hellacious. I mean, Utah State, they played last Saturday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and then now Tuesday. So they haven't had more than a day or 2 days off in like the last 10 days. So
they don't have a ton of depth either. So
yeah, they're thin. They're very thin.
I thought you said 2 points, Matt. Did you have
a yeah. How about Ryan Abramowitz? I call it the dad back you down in the driveway. Hunter Maldonado. I love that.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Well, it's like
the old tush.
They've got
right
Ike as the post-up threat, and then he gets 2 fouls, and it's like, all right, Hunter,
we'll go to the other post-up guy. Yeah, he's actually better in a different way.
All right, let's keep moving. LSU at Texas A&M. Yet another revenge angle here, as LSU did get the win over Texas A&M in Baton Rouge. Now the Aggies looking to get back at home. Kai, they have been floundering a little bit, trying to build an NCAA tournament resume, but they are not floundering as bad as LSU, who is really, really struggling. Still a strong NCAA tournament resume, a great seed coming for them, but the current form is poor. Does Texas A&M get them back here?
Yeah, I kind of think so. I think the spot sets up well for them. They've lost 6 straight. So after 4-0 SEC start, Texas A&M sitting at 4-6. So it's looking bleak for tourney purposes. But Matt, LSU, without Pinson or a hobbled Pinson, I'm going to include some of the games he played barely, 2-6 straight up and against the spread.
Yep.
Now 4-4 over under. The last 4 games have actually gone over for LSU. So it's a stark change in trends for them. However, I do kind of like the under in this game. I really don't think LSU is going to score very much. And frankly, I don't think Texas A&M will either, despite LSU's defense kind of regressing from what we saw earlier, Matt.
Yeah, another game earlier where LSU close late and they did their last 10-second, hit the nitrous turbo and go full, just blow past A&M. 1 by 6 at home. A&M could easily without Darius Days. Good point. But yeah, Kai, you mentioned the Pinson thing. We also should highlight that I believe we said this last show. Gaines and Murray are also banged up as well. They just did not look the same in Vandy. I was on Vandy pretty heavy last game. I'm on A&M pretty heavy tonight. I just think it's a great time to fade LSU. Like just the way you're hearing Will Wade talk about, I think we're safe for the tournament. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't even know if they are.
Very safe.
LSU's very safe.
So it's like we have guys hurt. We got to get them healthy. We got to rest them. If they drop a few in the SEC is good enough, I think, to withstand that. So now's a good time to maybe catch a team that's not rope-a-doping, but sort of okay with less than 100% efforts, I guess, Jim.
Yeah, I like A&M here today too. I wanted to get 3. I thought maybe we would get 3 just because Texas A&M's been bad lately too, but market's been on it. It's down like 1.5-ish. So not a best bet, but I do like the Aggies tonight. Okay, next one on the outline. We're getting to going down the conference rankings a little bit here. Going to the WCC out west, and then of course we've got the MAC game of the night to wrap things up before we go to our MAC game of the year, I should say, before we go to Chat Mob. St. Mary's at Santa Clara, kind of a local rivalry here, Kai. 2 teams very nearby each other. St. Mary's got the first one at home. Do they get a second one? I mean, it's tough to win twice against a team like Santa Clara that can adjust. Herb Sendek's a solid coach. But Randy Bennett rocks. So what do you think?
Yeah, he does. And St. Mary's is in line for a 6 or 7 seed right now. 17th in KenPom. I'm not sure many realize that.
They've been really
they've
good.
been legit. 19-4, 7-1 in the WCC. It's a big game though. And Santa Clara has been really tough. We've talked about how they've just kept games close the entire way. In game one, that game never got outside of 8 points. Clara didn't score over a point per possession because the St. Mary's defense is awesome. But Matt, on the flip side, Santa Clara's rebounding and their size is a good deterrent to St. Mary's. You can guard Tass, keep them off the glass. Their wing size at nearly every position is an edge over almost every team. So I actually kind of lean their way as home dogs here, plus 2.5. But betting against St. Mary's is one of my least favorite things to do in all of college basketball.
Yeah, I'm not betting against St. Mary's at all. I was tempted to maybe take them here, but man, Santa Clara has been so good. These two teams match up very well. They both have, I think their bread and butter is playing inside out through their post. St. Mary's is like, that's their vintage thing under Bennett, especially now with the roster they have that's more front loaded to that front court. Neither team has a lot of depth either, Jim. I feel like the under's too obvious, but given just their familiarity with both coaches and scheme, the gut was kind of thinking under.
Yep, I actually did bet the under, Matt. It's been bet down though, so I'm not sure there's a ton of value left anymore. There's 2.5 points off, maybe
138 from 140. I would still take 138.
Yeah, maybe take a peek at it. I'm with you. I think the familiarity breeds a slower game. Santa Clara's been running like crazy, but St. Mary's doesn't let anybody run. So I think this is going to be half court projected at 67 possessions. I could see it being like 64, 65, and then you've got pretty solid value there.
But there's a small call out about St. Mary, Santa Clara not being close. 55 miles. I'm calling that close, guys. Chat mobber.
Yeah, under an
That's
hour
close.
drive. Yeah,
it's an hour drive.
I guess maybe in that area, it's not an hour drive.
That's true.
Yeah, it's probably like an hour. Yeah, 2 hours in traffic.
Yep, fair. Okay, last game on the outline. Matt, another rematch. Ohio is headed to Toledo. The Rockets got revenge from the MAC championship game last year. And Ryan Rollins was all too quick to talk about it in the post-game interview. They were highly motivated for that win at Ohio. They came out hot early, hit a bunch of threes, and it loosened up the Ohio defense. They were mega efficient on the road. Now we look at this one. Do you think Ohio heading to Toledo coming off a loss to Ball State, you think Toledo drops another one here to Ohio?
Yeah, I think Ohio gets them. I do. It's tough to be super confident because Toledo just came off that loss to Ball State. Certainly will refocus that defense, which looked porous. I've kind of thought this Toledo defense is a house of cards all year, and they just continue to dodge bullets from teams that don't know how to attack them.
Well, they didn't dodge any against Ball State.
Like Ball State went right inside, got what they wanted, and then they were also on fire from three. So it was the perfect storm. But again, you can get to the rim against Toledo. I don't know why teams in the MAC haven't figured that out. It's why I've been fading them way too often this non-conference. So frustrating that I was on the opposite side of that one, Kai. I think the Bobcats get it done. OHIO. Well, the real Ohio University.
Speaking of scoring inside, Matt, that's all Toledo did against Ohio in game one. When they won by 18,
just drove it too. Both teams can score well against each other.
66% inside the arc for Toledo in that first game. Ohio could not stop them. Maybe if they had Dwight Wilson in the lineup this year, it'd be different. But I actually agree. I think Ohio does pop them right back. They're just as good as Toledo. There's talent on both sides. The Ryan Rollins versus Mark Sears matchup is awesome. Arguably the two best players in this league. They're both sophomores. Should be a fantastic battle here. Yeah, take the value, take the points for Ohio. I'm not going to guess how far Athens is from Toledo, but I would imagine it's not super, super far away. I lean Ohio here.
Yeah, the familiarity thing makes me kind of think under as well. I know Ed Redmond in the chat is attending this one, and he was kind of thinking that the efficiency was super high in the first one. And Toledo games just breed efficiency because, I mean, how many teams in the country are your best two shooters, your 4 and your 5 man? Like they open up the floor, they invert it so well. That's why all the drives are available. There's major driving lanes. There's no rim protection because they're out chasing Shoemate and Milner around. But I still kind of think it's a little slower. Shooting maybe not as sharp. I would lean towards the under and Ohio there. Okay, let's go back to Chat Mob. Again, hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't to the channel. Tell a friend or 10 to subscribe as well. I appreciate that. Kai, what questions do we have?
Yeah, we got several, guys. Let's finish the show off right. Ryan Abramovitz has 2 of them. Jim, starting with you. Portland is going to San Francisco for a little rematch of the WCC game.
Man, feels kind of high, right? 18. Yeah, Portland just competed with them in the first one. I don't have a strong take. I didn't bet it. I just looked at that and was like, wow, Portland's been more competent than 18, haven't they? That was my gut reaction.
Bowling Green is going to Kent State. We have a lean in this game, don't we?
We like Bowling Green. Joe Reese came back last game, had 17 points in 16 minutes, 16 points in 17 minutes. I'm with Jim, though. It's a cover your eyes bet because the team doesn't play any defense, but Reese makes a massive difference, especially on the defensive end because they have no size. And if there's one thing Kent State has, they're going to punish you up front. So I'm worried about the matchup, but I think the number's way too high. I think it's 7.
Bowling Green lost at home in the
6.5,
first one. Hopefully they
6.5. It's been bet down.
able to cover here.
Okay.
Bowling Green is one of those teams that has a guy out of the lineup randomly every single game. You just don't know that team. Jim, Wichita State going to UCF. A short spread here, -1.5 for the Knights, but they're frustrating. Actually, both teams are.
Yeah, they're both kind of tough to figure out. As Ed pointed out at the very beginning of the chat, I gave this one out on VSiN. I like UCF here.
I do too.
Matt, I think you were on UCF in the first one.
With me.
And
with you again.
I think back home, these teams are equals to me. Like, come on. I don't think it should be pick 'em or 1.5 at home. I think the Knights get it done, make the right adjustments. And it's been an underwhelming experienced veteran team, kind of a la St. Bonaventure, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
And they're running out of chances to right the ship. So I think they do tonight.
Matthew, we got a twofer from Fondell. Number 1, Air Force, UNLV. I'll actually take this one. I like UNLV here. I don't like betting against Air Force, but Ethan Taylor likely still out for Air Force. That's probably
your boy.
Check the lineup. He leads Air Force in, I believe, scoring, rebounding, assists, steals, literally every category. And they got blown out against New Mexico without him in the lineup. I think he's very important. To Matt, though, a very weird game. USC is hosting Pacific for some odd reason.
Yeah,
right
I don't
now.
understand.
They're a 19.5 point favorite. What do you think?
A gut leans over just based on the fact that, like, I don't think either Pacific's not going to dig in trying to get a big win here. USC is going to, I think, play this more like a rec ball pickup game. So I think the pace is going to naturally inflate. Lots of scoring, blowouts, maybe a second half just gets up and down. I don't know. That's my only intuition there.
I think USC is snoozing through this one. I don't think they care at all against the team that's like 4-15 from the WCC.
Ooh, little dog take. The Tigers.
I'm not excited about it, and I didn't actually bet it myself, to be clear. But that was my as I handicapped. I was like, USC is a team that middle of conference in February they're playing Pacific. Why? Weird.
Yeah, and they had a tough schedule. That's a good point. That you could definitely see some key guys not playing big minutes in this game.
Yeah.
Jim, our good buddy Brad Evans has 2 questions about the MAC. Akron at Northern Illinois. Akron is -8. Matt, you'll get the next one.
I liked the under. I didn't have a strong take on side. Northern Illinois has been tough for me to figure out. I think I've been fading them a lot, and I got 1 or 2 wrong. They had that big backdoor run against Ohio that frustrated me, and I stopped fading them, and then they stopped covering. So bad timing by me. But Akron's definitely an under team, and I think this is going to be kind of a slow down brawl, which are rare in the MAC, but I think we get one.
Matt, you get the Fighting Noah Farrakhan's Eastern Michigan against
that
Buffalo.
was more fun.
Yeah, 13-point spread. Every ENU game is a big spread, but can they cover this against Buffalo, a team that, I don't know, should be a lot better than they actually are playing so far?
You look at Buffalo's resume, it's actually not as bad as we painted it last week. They just got ransacked by Toledo and Ohio, like the 2 top dogs in that conference. And then they put it all in Central Michigan, catching Eastern Michigan. I think it's their third straight road game, 5th game in 9 days. Terrible schedule spot for EMU. I do think it's too high, but I'm not going to back EMU here.
I like the over. Lots of points.
Over. Jim, a game you might have an opinion on side and total here from Ray. Lipscomb, Liberty, 14.5 point spread for the Flames.
Yeah, I think it's a little big. And Matt, I know you're with me on the over, or at least to lean that way. Liberty's been running a lot in conference.
Mm-hmm.
Like their last
Liberty
game
overs.
out was a track meet.
Liberty overs.
Really rare for a Richie McKay team, but Darius McGee gets going, and I think it helps the role players to have a little more tempo to it. So I like the over, and Lipscomb doesn't guard anybody. So over and slight lean towards the Bison. I probably like the over more than the side.
An interesting game here, and then we'll talk 3 major games that were left off the rundown. Matt, UMKC is going to St. Thomas up in Minnesota.
The Roos?
The Roos are -2.5 now. They've gotten some money.
I'm not backing St. Thomas because I just don't think they play any defense.
And you're like the 3rd best athlete on their roster? Yeah.
Probably. I might be 2nd best athlete. And Kai saw me last night. I'm in no way close to my peak condition. But UMKC did just beat St. Thomas at St. Thomas last week. So, I guess, so that's a point in St. Thomas's favor. Again, I'm just not backing St. Thomas. That's simple.
The Tommies are allowing 60% shooting inside the arc. 60.
Yeah.
They have all year. And their 3-point, I think they're shooting like 42% non-conference. It's come way down in conference play. And sure enough, they've been demolished the last, 4 or 5 games.
I think now that there's tape out of their offense, this team in their first year of Division One, teams are stopping them.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, Jim, let's hit a top 5 team here in the country. You're looking for a 1 seed. Kentucky is -11 on the road against South Carolina. We know which way Matt leans, but which way do you like?
I think South Carolina kind of sneaky stinks, and Kentucky has been pretty solid. I mean, again, they did win by 11 at Alabama, but Alabama went 3 for 30 from deep, so not a flawless Kentucky performance, but I just think Kentucky is starting to accelerate and get to the higher gear that they're capable of.
The General has won 2 straight games at home against Kentucky.
Frank Martin,
the General, as we call him.
Yeah.
So is he at a third tonight?
I don't know.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't.
Good luck.
He won't.
Matthew, Stanford, believe it or not, is in the tournament conversation right now. They are on the bubble squarely. Some people have them in the field. They're hosting UCLA in a major, major game for them. And it's a 7.5-point spread. What do you think?
I'd like to hear you tell me why they're in the field. I haven't even considered that as a possibility in the world in which I exist. I think the line's a little too high, personally. I'm leaning tree after UCLA got swept by the Zona schools. You're right. Kind of an awkward travel now, early week, not within the usual Pac-12 Thursday, Saturday, or Friday, Sunday, that twofer. Yeah, I lean tree.
I can't remember if it was Andy Bottoms or Lucas on your show yesterday that said Stanford could have a Wyoming-like week where they really accelerate up the bubble.
Yeah. I forgot to say that as well, but it's true. Jim, last game, and then we're going to hit best bets. Michigan at Penn State. Michigan's -2. Boy, imagine what this spread would have been preseason.
Yeah, I mean, it still feels a little short to me. I think Michigan is riding the ship a little bit. They made a couple runs at Purdue, and I was pretty impressed by that. Dickinson's really asserting himself. The role guys around him are so up and down, and on the road at Penn State, that's always a kind of a minefield to play at, but it's short enough that I think it's okay to back the Wolverines.
All right, let's do best bets.
All right, Matt, we're starting with you.
North Carolina, raise up, bounce back.
Should I take my shirt off?
Yeah, Tar Heel mascot imitation. I thought about that too, as you mentioned it pre-show. I don't know how to do that. It's like a ram. I could buck someone with horns or something. The ram
is the logo, yeah.
So yeah, UNC. I think they take care of business against Clemson.
+1,
I guess +1. It's very simple. Price is too short. I think UNC's been. Michigan is kind of in the same cut from the same cloth. They're both, I think, undervalued right now. I think they're going to eventually trend closer to where we had them preseason. So I'm sticking to my priors. Stubborn per usual. Has not played out well for me so far, Jim, the last 2 weeks. You guys continue to carry me on this segment, so continue to do so today.
No Hunter Tyson is good for you.
Yes.
Yeah, no Hunter Tyson for Clemson.
Kai picked it off last game. I think I get him again today.
It's a good point for Ryan in the chat here. UNC is 0-7 against Q1 win opportunities this year. So this would be their first one if they got it done.
The old do theory.
They need it.
The old do theory.
Reminder of my best bet. It was Iowa State, West Virginia under 129.5. If Taz Sherman plays, I think you get a little bit nervous about the bet. If he doesn't play, I think it's pretty strong. Jim.
A game we have not talked about yet. I am on Monmouth -7.5 hosting Marist. The first game between these two was maybe the most embarrassing moment of Monmouth's basketball program.
Right.
They were down by 40 like the entire game. George Pappas fouled out with 8 or 9 minutes left, basically walked straight to the locker room. He was frustrated out of his mind. But guys, that is the only game Marist has covered in the last 8. They have not covered 7 of the last 8. That game overly inflated them in analytical measures. I think we get angry Monmouth that remembers that game, does not take their foot off the gas pedal. My only worry is John Dunn as an underdog. He's a good coach. They've got a strong point guard, but I just think the motivation angle is too strong for Monmouth. They're a much better team. I will take the Hawks at home. All right, that's it.
Love it.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to the Field of 68's Best Bets presented by BetRivers. If you haven't yet, hit the like button on the way out. Subscribe as well. But of course, we'll be back at the same time tomorrow, Wednesday edition, another strong slate of conference play. So we will see you again tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific.